More than 20%, almost 7 million of us living in this country were not born here. It's the highest percentage among the G8 countries, exceeded only by Australia. In Toronto, the percentage of our neighbors for whom English is not a mother tongue is roughly 46%. One frequently hears it on the streets of Ontario's capital city or in its malls or subways. Not so much on television or radio. To rectify that imbalance somewhat, we have invited 5 guests to learn more about how it feels to live and work while speaking an accented English. So let us welcome Atena Bishka, educational consultant, Rodolphe El Khoury, architect, Atto Quaison, professor of English, Mayank Bhatt, chief operations officer, and Hain Lee, freelance illustrator. And it's great to have you 5 around this table. A couple of you for the second time, but most of you for the first time. I want to just get people to meet you a little better. So Atena, shall we?
Sure.
Tell everybody where you're from.
I'm from Albania, originally.
And you spoke what language at home?
We spoke Albanian.
Only?
Only.
When and how did you learn English?
Well, when I said only, actually, in our house, my parents appreciated very much foreign languages. They were well read in Russian, French, and Italian. But I said well read, so they didn't have any opportunity to speak around other people or in the house.
So it was all Albanian in the home?
It was Albanian, so the spoken language was Albanian.
When did you learn English?
I developed a very strong attraction for English when I was 10 years old, and English was not a language spoken in my household.
How about at school?
And at school we did learn English, but I consider myself to be a self-taught.
Okay. When did you move to Canada?
I moved to Canada in 2000.
In 2000. Okay, so you've only been here a little longer than a decade.
Yes.
Very good. Okay, next, Atto. Where are you from?
I'm from Ghana.
And what language did you speak in the home?
We spoke Portuguese and English until roughly age 9, and then we switched to English.
So you've got a good background in English then going back to your childhood, yes?
Yes.
Okay, when did you come to Canada?
2005.
Do you think you have an accent?
I hope so.
Now, what does that mean, I hope so?
Well, that is a mark of, because an accent is a mark of a different culture, a different way of life and all that. And I want people to recognize that.
Because your accented English is just a different accented English, right?
Yep, like many other accented Englishes.
But is it your first language, would you call it that?
Well, I would call it my home language, but the thing is that I grew up in a multilingual environment. So we spoke several languages simultaneously. I said that English was the language of education. So if you went to school, you spoke English. And I so happened also to have spoken English at home because my father took a decision after we spent some of my childhood in Brazil. So when we came back to Ghana, he thought that we would be at a competitive disadvantage if we kept speaking Portuguese. Gotcha. That's why we got to speaking English at home.
Understood. Okay. Mayank, you are from where?
I'm from Bombay, India.
What language did you speak at home?
My mother tongue is Gujarati, but India is a multilingual country, so you generally speak 4 languages. If you're in a city like Bombay, you speak your mother tongue, you speak Hindi, which is the national language of India, you speak Marathi, which is the regional language of the city, and you speak English, because that's the link language for India.
And you spoke all 4 at home?
No, I spoke Gujarati.
Gujarati at home?
Yes.
So when did you learn your English?
In school.
From a very young age?
Yes, from a fairly young age, I would say.
Fairly young age,
yes,
okay.
Yes.
And you came to Canada when?
2008.
2008. Did I ask you, Atto?
2005.
2005, okay. So everybody in the 21st century so far. Okay, very good. Rodolphe, you're from where?
Born and raised in Beirut, Lebanon.
And the language spoken in the home?
At home we speak the Lebanese dialect, but we also learn the modern standard Arabic, which is the lingua franca of the Arab world. So the news, the newspapers, that's the modern standard Arabic.
Any French?
French is the second language of choice for my generation. Of course, it's changing now. So I speak French fluently, but with a heavy accent. which is the source of continuous amusement for my French colleagues at the university. Right?
Quel temps fait-il aujourd'hui?
Ah, il fait très froid aujourd'hui.
I don't hear a what's wrong with that accent?
They complain. But
Sounded pretty good to me. When did you learn English?
the formal training, schooling in English started in high school, but really the learning begins much earlier because of rock and roll, Hollywood. Thankfully, actually, the American movies in Lebanon are not dubbed; they are screened with subtitles, which is a great great way to learn languages. Right?
So you could hear the language as you went to the movies.
Yes, and to this day, actually, I'm so accustomed to reading movies that I put on the subtitles regardless of the language of the movie.
Okay, so would you have had formal English training in school?
In high school.
Not till high school?
Not till high school.
Okay.
Right.
And you came to Canada when?
Actually, I left Lebanon for the US initially to study architecture when I was 18. That's a long time ago, and I have been in North America ever since. So the move to Canada is more recent.
Understood. Okay. Hein, you ready?
Yes.
Where are you from?
I'm from Korea.
South, I assume.
South Korea, yes.
Okay.
I came here in 1995.
95, all right.
Long time ago.
And what language was spoken in your home?
We speak Korean, but with my brother and my cousins, we speak Konglish. It's Korean and English mixed together.
Konglish. Could you say something in Konglish for us? Like, how would you say, what's the weather like today?
Weather 어때?
That's Konglish.
Yes. When you say Batman, you say Batman in Korean accent instead of English accent, so that's Konglish.
Okay. And when did you have English training in school?
I did, but it was really bad. I had a very, very basic training. So I learned how to speak, my name is Hein, and that's all I knew when I first came here. So I had no English training. I learned English by listening, watching TV shows. I learned English watching Seinfeld and Simpsons.
Come on. You learned English watching Jerry Seinfeld.
Yes.
You know that that's an accent of a different kind.
I cannot distinguish different accents.
That is, I will explain, that is a Nebuchadnezzar Jewish accent. Yes, which is not the same as the Ontario accent that you're hearing nowadays.
Oh, maybe that's why I speak in Jewish accent.
Very good. That's great. So you really, you picked it up ever since you came here. You did not have much English at all before you came here. Wow, that's terrific. Okay. Well, all right. Good to meet all of you. Good to get to know you all a little better. Before we get into our discussion a little further, we want to say that we took our cameras to the streets of Ontario's capital city to take a look at some of your fellow Torontonians who also have a bit of an accent. Let's hear what they had to say. Roll tape, please.
I think it's rude for me to ask someone to repeat themselves because of their accent. So usually what I do is I tell them, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you properly.
I'm Ehab, I'm from Libya. I came here 3 years ago.
I'm from Afghanistan, but I was basically raised in Pakistan. So the accent is kind of mixture of Urdu and Farsi.
Well, originally I'm from Ghana, West Africa, or the Gold Coast.
Sometimes it's very hard. You know, some people trying to buy a cell phone or a cable service, and I'm trying to make sure they got the right product. So they say, I want this and that, but I don't understand the accent.
For me, I feel like every time I speak low, people don't understand necessarily what I say, so I always have to speak a little bit loudly.
I've had people asking me where the accent's from or where's that beautiful accent from. It sometimes gets frustrating because they don't always need to know where it's from. Like, why do you have to ask me? Because none of us are originally from Canada.
But when they hear me talk, they're like, are you Russian? Are you Persian? Because they kind of have a thick accent. Females like that, you know what I mean?
Oh, my brother Cookie Monster? He have accent like me. Yeah. We understand each other, though.
Okay. Atena, when you are in conversation with people who don't know you and they say, that accent, where are you from? How do you react to that?
They rarely do, I find, in work settings. And when they do, I am happy to say that I am from Albania, I'm from Eastern Europe.
So you are not offended when people ask you, where's that accent from?
No, I am not.
Okay. Rodolphe, how about you?
Actually, they ask me this question very often because my accent is hard to place.
It is.
I think it has to do with the fact that I learned French before English. So then there's a bit of a French inflection in and of course the Arabic origin, so it confuses everybody.
Yours is definitely more of the region. Yours is very hard to place, I must confess.
Right.
How about you? Do you object when people say, oh, that's an interesting accent, where are you from?
No, I don't object. It depends on the context in which it is asked, but I don't normally object. I don't find it objectionable at all.
I'm going to infer from that answer that you have had people ask you where that accent is from, not in a particularly pleasing way.
Well, that question is not common. The question that's more common is, where do you come from? But it may be inferred from the accent, but it's rare for people to ask you, that accent is strange, so where do you, but they'll ask you, where do you come from, which I think is implied in the accent.
And do you not like it when people say, where are you from?
No, I don't find it objectionable at all. It's an excuse to talk more about myself.
Which is okay by you.
Yes, well, so good.
Okay. Our friend from Bombay, do you mind when people say, oh, you've got an accent, where are you from?
Oh, I normally introduce myself by saying that I have an accent. And my accent is something that if you don't follow, please ask me.
So you don't have a problem with it?
No. In fact, I think it's important for me to clarify to people that I have an accent and they might find it difficult to understand what I'm saying.
Okay. Hein, how about you?
When I was a teenager, I find it offensive, or I was taken aback by it.
You were?
Yes. But as I get older, I understand people are interested in where I come from, so I more embrace it now, and it's something to talk about, so I like it now.
What was it about the question, you have an accent, where are you from, that you didn't like?
I've been here a very long time. I've been here since 1995, and people ask me all kinds of questions about Korea, and I've only been back once. I don't know much about Korea. I consider myself a Canadian, so that kind of question just, are you just fresh off the boat? I'm like, no, I'm not. When I was a teenager, I was trying to fit into the society.
Did you find that when people first met you, this is back in the middle 90s, they didn't know if you were Korean or from a different Asian country? Did you find that confusion?
Yes.
Did that upset you?
Yes, it did.
It did.
There weren't many Koreans back then in Canada, so they just assume I'm from China or Japan. It upset me before, but nowadays I cannot tell the difference between Chinese and Japanese and Korean either, so I don't take it personally.
Okay. You have lived and worked in a number of different environments. For example, high school, and then training to be an engineer, and then working as an illustrator and a teacher at OCAD-U. So different environments. How different were the responses to the way you spoke in those different environments?
In high school, teenagers are cruel, so I was bullied a lot, and I was the only Asian in class. I went to Catholic school in Mississauga, so it was really hard for me. And I still have an accent because language development stops at when you're age 14. And I couldn't practice my English, so I only watch TV. So that's why I still have my accent. So I try to get rid of my accent, and I noticed that the more I speak, try to get rid of it, the more I'm conscious of it, and the content of the conversation suffers. So I was always conscious of it, self-conscious. So it's really hard to talk to people. But in university, it got better. People are more understanding. And my accent, I realized that my accent doesn't really matter that much. And it also adds to my personality, and people find it unique. So I got to more embrace it. And engineering job field, it's more conservative field. So it's better if I have a less accent. But in arts community, people, I don't even notice that I have a different accent.
Well, there are more people like you in the arts field, I guess, too, right?
Yes, yes.
It would not be the case, as it was in high school, that you'd be the only one of your ethnicity, of your gender, of whatever, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Was it really a case of being bullied, or was it more teased when you were in high school?
I was bullied a lot.
You were bullied?
Yes.
Like, I don't want to say beaten up or shoved around or what?
yeah, shoved around. People steal my dictionary or throw things at me and stuff like that. It was tough.
You gotten even with any of those people yet?
Pardon me?
Have you gotten even with any of those people yet?
One girl who bullied me a lot got really fat.
And you were happy about that?
Yes.
Okay. Otto, you lived in the United Kingdom for a while, right?
Yes,
Before Canada?
I did.
Okay. How was the reaction to your accent in the UK versus here?
Well, I should put in context. When I went to the UK, I was going to graduate school at the University of Cambridge. The shock cut both ways because it was the first time that I realized that the English did not speak like Shakespeare. Because before I went to England, I assumed that all the English that was spoken was the received pronunciation that you found on the BBC. So going there it was very surprising to find that they had different accents. They had accents from Liverpool or Newcastle or Cockney and so on. So that was my shock. But it was also a shock for me to realize that the English that I spoke, I always had to repeat myself, even though I had studied English since childhood. And as I said, I spoke English at home. So grammar was not a problem, but various aspects of my accent I actually had to work on. Like, for example, in Ghana, the sound the as in mother and father, it's converted to d. So we would say your mother and your father. And it took me a while to realize that I was not speaking with the right sound. And the other thing about Ghanaian English is that we tend to shorten vowels, whereas the English elongate, the vowels are longer.
For example?
For example, short. The word short, actually, the R is like a vowel, so it elongates the O, short. But we say short. He's a short man. So it took me a while to realize that the English that I had been brought up with, the two things. One is that the English did not speak English like how I assumed from the books that we were made to read. And that in fact, the English was a diversity of actually dialects. English is very dialectal. And not only that, but even the dialectal English in England has hierarchies. So people look down on certain English dialects in England. That was a shock to me.
Did they like your accent?
Well, it was clear that I hadn't been brought up in England. So I didn't face any major dislike or anything, but often I had to repeat myself and so on.
Gotcha. Atena, I want to know about, you were in the United States before Canada?
Yes.
How did they react to your accent? Where did you live in the States?
Southern Illinois.
Southern Illinois, okay. So not up in Chicago, but down south.
Yes.
All right, how did they react to the accent there?
Well, I was very familiar with the U.S. accent, so my story is a little bit like Otto's, and I think I knew the standard U.S. Language because I worked for U.S. Embassy in Tirana for a few years. So I went from worshipping the UK received pronunciation, BBC World Service pronunciation, to US pronunciation, which was a shock. It was a very different way of pronouncing things. Then when I went to Southern Illinois, I got introduced to Southern accent. But I was a student there, so it was a very international environment, and there were a lot of people from India, from Asian countries, from Europe, and I don't think I had any difficulty, but I could pick up on various different accents from all over the world, but also the regional accents, people that were from southern, from New Orleans, for example, from Paducah, from St. Louis, and there was a very distinct difference between the way they spoke, the people that came from those regions, let's say compared to New York or New Jersey or Chicago even. So I became aware of that.
Any teasing or bullying that you had to deal with because of your accent?
No, but my daughter at the time, She arrived less than 2 years old in southern Illinois, and so she picked the southern accent, and it was very funny to hear the way she talked. But as soon as she came to Toronto, it was amazing how quickly she dropped the southern accent, and now she's, I think, a Torontonian. Toronto accent.
You got to write a book, From Tirana to Tirana. Right? That's what you got to do.
Maybe someday.
Say Toronto.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay, Mayank, you recently wrote something on the website CanadianImmigrant.ca about speaking with an accent, and I want to read that and then chat with you a bit about it. Here's a piece of that account. Accent, you wrote, is a strange thing. It gives variety to a language, an identity to a person, adds spice to a conversation. Accent is diversity and multiculturalism personified. But make no mistake, it's not desirable. Those who have it would prefer to lose it. Those who don't can't understand the misery that those who have it experience. It's a barrier to communication. Even the most educated and articulate person will find it hard to communicate if he or she has a pronounced accent. You think that accent you have is a misery?
Initially it was, and I'll tell you why. Because when I came here, I was already in my mid-40s. And I had, a very successful working life in India. I tried looking for similar kind of jobs that I was doing, excuse me. And one of the biggest problems that I faced was not being able to make the other person on the phone understand that despite how I sounded, I could actually do the job. And repeatedly that experience I had for over a year, and everybody faces that experience. Now, I'm not alone. But I had to go through a lot of misery merely to try and communicate with the other person, just to say that, I can do this, don't go by how I speak.
So the assumption was if you have an accent, you're probably not as intelligent and may not be able to do the job.
As
Is that the problem?
yeah, that is the problem, because they would tend to believe that you do not have Canadian experience, and your accent is actually saying that in so many words or in so many ways.
So what job were you doing back in India?
Oh, I used to be a commercial specialist working for a consulate, so I was promoting trade.
And what jobs did you have to take when you first came here?
I was a security guard for almost a year. My first winter in Canada was patrolling a condo.
How much did you like that?
Actually, I got used to the cold weather, so I don't, I think it was, on the balance, quite a good thing.
Really? What was good about that?
You get to know a lot of people, you get to know the local culture. I mean, you get to know that the only answer to the question how you are is to say, fine, thank you. You don't actually get into discussing your health.
Hayne, did you find having the accent when you first came here, as Mayank says, a misery?
Yes. As a teenager, I wanted to fit into high school culture, but it was really hard for me. So it was miserable. And one of my ESL teachers told me that if I have an accent, it'll be hard for me to get a job or to find a friend. For a professional career, it has not been much of a problem for me, but I help out my parents at my parents' store every Christmas. And when they see me with a heavy accent, they just assume I have a very low intelligence, so people are not so understanding. I find that.
You're not pleased with that assumption that they make about you?
No, sometimes I'm a little slow with the change, and the customer goes, "Why? You cannot do math, huh?" Ha ha ha. I have an engineering degree.
Your accent has not held you back. You're an architect, right? You're doing fine.
That's right.
Yeah.
And actually, I think it has worked as an advantage in certain ways.
How so?
Like, for instance, I give you an example. A colleague of mine at the university, because also I'm a professor of architecture, he's told me once, perhaps ungenerously, he said, "Oh, Rodolphe, it doesn't matter what you say, but because of your accent, anything you say sounds profound." And I think there may be a little tiny kernel of truth in that accents sometimes give a certain cachet. So I don't think there's a universal situation here. It really depends on what kind of accent, in what situation, in what context, and sometimes they are actually positive attributes. In most cases, I think.
There's something to that, right? If you're in one of those jobs which require a great deal of creativity, as yours does, and you have some kind of very exotic, which you do, your accent, as we've discussed already, is hard to place.
That's right.
That does buy you some brownie points, I'm guessing, in various places.
I have to admit that maybe that's true, yes.
I think so. All right, should we play some more tape here? Let's have, again, cameras in the streets, and these are another set of opinions from non-accented Torontonians about how they respond to accented Torontonians, if I can put it that way. Roll tape, please.
It's always kind of an anxious situation saying, I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Sometimes I experience a serious anxiety about like not being able to understand them or respond in ways that are like adequate and contextual.
If it's someone I'm likely to see more than once, then I'll just try to work with it. I'll just try to sort of adjust to it. And if it's someone who I'm just sort of meeting in passing, then I'll likely just try to be polite as I can and move on.
You just have to be patient and I guess keep calm if you're rushed.
So I pin it on myself, like it's my hearing problem.
Rather than saying I can't understand a word you're saying, you know.
If I don't get it initially, I just keep walking.
Just keep walking. Does that happen to anybody around this table here? People just, they didn't understand, they're afraid to be embarrassing, so they just walk away?
I think
Anybody?
that
Yes?
people are concerned with communication and understanding. So I believe that the first reaction does not have anything to do with prejudgment, but with understanding. We speak so that we can talk together and to understand each other. And in order for me to get my message across to you, you have to understand it. Then I think might come the prejudice. But I find that in Toronto, since it's a very international community, people are usually very polite and patient with each other, and they do wait until they understand. I'm not saying that there might not be some attitudes with certain people. For once, for example, if I get in a call center somebody that I don't understand, first I try to understand. I think I do my part. If I fail for different reasons, maybe because I'm very impatient, I'm in a hurry, or probably the situation is very complicated, I have to admit it, I simply do this. I say, okay, maybe I have a mistake here and I called in error, everything is fine, and I have to call back.
So you just hang up and try again?
But I do that politely because I understand that it's not the person's fault, it's not my fault, it's usually the outsourced work in some Asian countries where probably people are hired and are not screened properly. And in that situation, I think it's not accent, it's language, it's accent, there are a lot of things that are going on, it's contextual, and these things happen.
Ato, what do you do when you're talking to somebody else who has a very thick accent that you are having trouble understanding?
Okay, I'm used to teaching people with thick accents. So in my line of duty, I cannot just walk off because it's my job. So I've never had I have had, like calling Bell Canada for something, and the call obviously goes to a call center, and the person speaks in a very thick accent. I just wait it out and try to figure out. I may ask them to repeat themselves a few times, but in a way it's a transfer from my line of work where I actually have lots of students who carry accents. So I haven't had, sometimes it's irritating, and that is true, sometimes, especially when you're in a hurry. When you're in a hurry, or as Athena said, when the matter is a little bit complicated. But I haven't had occasion to...
Not too bad.
To walk off, as it were.
Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you are talking to somebody who has a very thick accent, and you can't understand them, and you think to yourself, boy, come to this country, you should learn the language, damn it. You ever thought that?
No, because I went through the same experience of people not understanding me. I remember going to McDonald's and tried to order food when I first came to Canada, and all my family just loaded up to me and they just walked off. Like, order this and just tell them, and I don't speak English either, and nobody could understand me. I try to be very patient to people, and I teach students too, and some of them have a very thick accent, and I just keep asking, what did you say? What did you say? Pardon, pardon, until I understand. I don't walk away.
Mike, have you ever been in that situation where you are dealing with somebody on the phone or at a fast food place or whatever, and you think to yourself, boy, that's a thick accent. I wish they spoke English better.
I think, you know, what is ironic is that people who have an accent expect the other person not to have an accent. And that really is something that one kind of encounters only here in Toronto. Or, you know, for me, in India, when I was in India, everybody spoke in the same accent, so there was no issue with it. But here you find different accents. It isn't like 2 accents or 3 accents. There are like multiple choices you have. And it occasionally you tend to kind of get impatient with that, not necessarily in the wrong way, but you know, you have to work with it. You have to work with it.
Surely you find that somewhat ironic.
Oh, certainly I do, yes.
Yes. Have you ever been in that situation where you thought...
I think we have to make a distinction between accent and pronunciation. If you speak with a bad... the pronunciation is a different issue. It's less controversial. It's less nuanced. It's basically not speaking the language properly. And you should learn better pronunciation, and you can do that. An accent, I think, has... The way you maybe distinguish accent from pronunciation is the accent is an inflection of the language which does not affect communication. It's just it's a surplus.
You might call it an affectation even.
Yes, it's something that does not really get in the way of communication. And this is something I think more controversial, more complicated to discuss, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. In my mind, a bad pronunciation is never a good thing. You have to work on learning the language. It's just like grammar. Pronunciation is part of the language, and is something that has to be taught and learned.
Except that pronunciation is actually part of accent. And that is why the Americans have a different pronunciation of words than the English. So the English have different pronunciation for certain words because the vowel sounds and things change. In fact, the first thing you notice about that alerts you to an accent is that certain words, not all words, but certain words are pronounced differently. I think that's the cue to know that. And also the question of the right pronunciation. Now the world is filled with different Englishes. Mm-hmm. So if you go to, so you may be considering that this is the right pronunciation for Toronto, but you go to India and you'll be misunderstood because there the accent is different. So what you consider, so notions of correctness are also contextual. So you may think that you are speaking in an accent which is correct for this context and switch to another, a British going to, there are Americans who don't understand the received pronunciation. They have to ask for repetition.
Say the word C-E-R-T-A-I-N.
C-E-R-T, certain.
See, I would say certain. Mm-hmm. You say?
Certain.
Certain.
Mm-hmm.
Is that pronunciation or is that accent?
It's an inflection of pronunciation that makes you recognize that it's an accent.
That's a wonderfully political answer. You got it both ways on that one. I
think it's very, like, of course, the line is not clear. There's no clear boundary between pronunciation and accent. This is why my pragmatic definition, which is once it affects communication and comprehension, it becomes pronunciation. If it's not, if it's just like a decorative element, you called it affectation. If it's just an inflection that gives identity but does not interfere in the delivery of the message, then it's accent.
So what do you make of Americans who don't understand British English and have to ask for repetition? So someone from Newcastle, there's a very good example. Cheryl Cole, who is a musician, very well-known musician, was signed up to do American X Factor. And after she signed up, the program director said she has to be dropped from the show because her Newcastle accent was so strong that they were scared that Americans would not understand her. Now, who is supposed to correct their pronunciation? Is it Sheriko who has to sort of speak in an American English, or the Americans who have to understand that this is English the way it is spoken in Newcastle?
So there is heavy accent versus, what is the word, light accent. So there is a continuum here, right? So I think that is precisely what happens with me, for example, with certain regions in Kosovo. They speak Albanian as well, but sometimes it's hard for me to understand what they are saying because I would call it thick accent. With a little bit of work, of course, I will understand it. After all, it is Albanian, but I need some efforts for specific dialects, and Albania and Kosovo have a lot of dialects, regardless of the very small country that Albania is and Kosovo.
I notice you're being political here. You said Kosovo instead of Kosovo.
Right, we say Kosovo in Albania, yes. Kosovo in fact, Kosovo, Kosovar. But internationally, I think they are, the country is called Kosovo with an O.
Correct.
That is a
I shouldn't
very
say correct.
long
I would say you are correct
story.
in
Yes.
reflecting that.
But I think with the, sorry.
I was just going to say, the producer of this segment, Wojtek Schemberg, who has a very thick accent, I might add, and who I love listening to, said to me in my ear just now, stop amusing yourself with international politics, move on. So, this we shall do, because if I don't do that, he'll keep talking to me, and I can't listen to that accent for too much longer. Sorry, Wojtek. Okay, we put the call out on Twitter and Facebook, and we said, give us your stories about language. And we got a number of blog posts, there's one here from Neeru Kumar, who's a bit of a friend of this program, who posted the following. She said, even though English became the language I thought in and was most comfortable expressing myself in, Hindi anchored me. It gave my life meaning, it connected me to my relatives in India and abroad, it gave me a sense of my roots, my ancestors, and the ancient civilization I was part of. Her comments are on the website in the blog section. Many others who also contributed to this discussion have their things there as well. But this notion of mother tongue, even though she's from Montreal and probably speaks English and French better than Hindi, this notion of mother tongue anchoring you in something bigger than yourself, does this resonate with you?
Yes, surely. No matter like how many languages you learn later, or I hardly now actually communicate in Arabic. I think my identity is so bound to that language. It's really defining at the very core. So, and I'm sure you.
How about you? How about you? Is I presume you spend most of your days here speaking English.
Yes.
But that desire to speak Hindi.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's something that you realize only when you know, like they say in India, that you realize the importance of moon only on the moonless night. So once you begin to not use the language that you're so used to, you begin to realize how important it is to you in your life. And I think that is true for all of us who don't normally speak English at home. And we try and create opportunities to use that language in whatever form we can, so that we don't lose familiarity with it. At home, for example, my wife insists on speaking in Hindi to my son, who surprisingly has been here with us for as long as we have been here, but does not have an accent anymore.
Sometimes you will hear people in the Jewish community who remember Yiddish say things in Yiddish, and you ask them, what's the translation? And they say, you really can't translate it into English. It just doesn't carry the full oomph. Do you have that same kind of phenomenon where
yes.
You can say it in Hindi and then you say, what's the translation?
There is no translation.
There isn't one, really.
There isn't one, yes. There isn't one. You cannot translate certain phrases, certain ideas from one language to another.
Because it's so wrapped up in layers of everything.
It has to do with culture.
Well, in my own case, among the several languages that I speak are Pidgin English, like Konglish, Pidgin English, and also Fanti. I can only joke in these two languages. And if I translate any of those jokes into English, it falls, because the punchline is very different. And the assumptions behind the joke depend on the languages themselves.
And the shared culture, I
the
guess.
The shared
and
culture and so on. So my language of laughter has to be my local language. English is a language of, serious discussions and aesthetic values and complex, abstract, but the visceral language, the language of visceralness, the one that will make me laugh until I cry, has to be one of the local languages.
Observe, English imposes, for those who are not first, it's not a first language, imposes a certain kind of formality. So even if you are very confident using the language, it's a very formal approach that you have to the language, both in terms of speaking and in terms of writing. So the informality of a conversation that native speakers would have, I don't think I would be able to ever get that kind of intimacy with the language that they have, or that I have with my own language.
Hayne, you're sitting down right now, but you've done stand-up comedy in the past, yes?
Yes.
You've done stand-up comedy?
Yes.
In English?
Yes, I have.
Why?
I was a class clown in Korea, and when I came to Canada, because I was bullied, I didn't talk at all for 5 years in high school, and it was taken away from me, the ability to joke. Like Atto, it's a different kind of IQ and different cultural understanding. So when I accumulated enough stuff in adult life, I went at it and made jokes in English.
Where did you do it?
At my friend's studio. We rented a basement of a studio, and I invited a bunch of people and did a stand-up comedy.
And what kinds of things were you making fun of in your routine?
It was a self-deprecation. The self-deprecating humor, and I talk about my mom. Korean moms are very funny, and I also talked about dating life. That's focus of my comedy.
So you're making fun of your accent ever?
Yes, I didn't outrightly make fun of my accent, but when I make a joke in my accent, my natural accent, it just sounds funny. My friends laugh at me for saying garbages, which is wrong pronunciation, but they find it really funny when I say certain things.
Okay, let's get into this a bit. I presume all of you at some point have had friends, colleagues, whatever, tease you for the way you sound. Am I seeing heads nod here?
Yeah.
Yes? Atto, you're not so sure.
Well, okay, I'll join the group. I'll have to think about it.
Okay, but you've had this experience where somebody's teased you because of your accent?
I have one example of that.
But they mean it in a good, in a fun way. Yes, in a fun way.
Yes.
Do you mind that?
No, I can tell you that. It was a fairly recent example. I was sitting with one of the people that I reported to, and we were in very good terms. I think it was an annual review, something like that.
This other person was reviewing you?
Yes,
okay.
Performance review, annual performance
review. So they are
review.
your superior in some
My
respects.
superior,
okay.
yes. So we are talking, and I don't know, I have no idea how I managed to drift the conversation, and I brought something else completely irrelevant. And I don't know how the German Baroque composer Bach went into the conversation. So he looks at me and he says, "It's Bach." And I said, "You say Bach, I say Bach, period." So I got corrected there, but I rejected it. But usually people are polite.
But
they
more importantly,
don't.
did you pass the performance review?
I did, yes.
You did pass that. What about, do you have people ever mimic or tease the way you speak?
Yes, and sometimes it's not only the accent or the pronunciation, but it's also like a way of saying certain things. For instance, the way I ask a question. For instance, I would say, "This is drinking water." No, that's not a very English.
It's a French thing.
It's exactly. It's a French.
You're saying n'est-ce pas.
N'est-ce pas, right? So, and people actually note this and make fun of it. So it's.
So that's how would we describe that? That's more a use of language thing as opposed to the way you sound.
Exactly, right.
But do Is it all in good fun?
No, it's all in good fun. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of curiosity about accents and other ways to speak.
Otto, anything come to mind now?
Yeah, no, yes. But you see, the thing is that people have what they call idiolects. So there's language, there's dialect, and each person has their own mannerisms that they spice their language with. And the mannerisms could be accented mannerisms. So I have mannerisms of speaking that are from my languages in Ghana. Now, people can, I've had this many times, they pick up a mannerism and they'll tease me with it.
Like what?
Like, for example, when I'm listening intently, I like to say, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I change the tonality of, mm-hmm. if I really like what I say, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I keep doing that. After a while, I'll hear it echoing back to me. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, so that's one. But it's purely a personal mannerism that I've transferred into English.
I've now figured out the Ghanaian accent when it comes to the letter R. Mm-hmm. You don't say it. You say person instead of person.
Person.
You say
yeah,
seton.
I swallow it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice. I think it sounds lovely.
Who's going to make fun of an English professor's
Exactly.
accent?
It's okay.
Certainly no student who wants a good mark, that's for sure. How about you? Do you ever have these circumstances where people are kind of, not teasing, but mimicking or having fun with?
But with no malice. With no malice
With no
at all.
malice.
Yeah. In fact, when we're in a group of Indians and we mimic our own accent, we have a very popular joke that you hold a gun to an Indian on this temple and say you speak proper, have the proper accent, he would prefer to die.
How about you? Fun teasing? Any good-natured teasing?
Yes, now it's all fun and games. But when I was younger, there was some malice into it. But now it's all funny. And I have a hard time understanding certain words. Year and year sound same to me. Wood and wood. I say wood wrong all the time. All those things that doesn't exist in Korean language kind of is hard to pronounce and hear.
That sounded okay. Say it again. What was the?
I say wood.
Oh, wood.
But right pronunciation is wood.
Like that Polish ghetto. Wuj. You sort of say it like that, okay. Which English people say lodge, which it isn't, it's wuj. Anyway, moving on again, or I'm going to hear Vodek in my ear. Control room, we're on the bottom of page 5. I want to find out how many of you here wish you could lose your accents entirely. And to that end, I'm going to read another something that you wrote on CanadianImmigrant.ca back in the summertime. You wrote, I've often wondered why we don't have free coaching available in Canada to newcomers to neutralize our accent. Many of us don't need the free language instructions for newcomers that the federal government offers, but nearly all of us need to neutralize our accents. In many parts of the world, call centers employ accent coaches to train employees to not only lose their accent, but even talk the way the natives do. We should try that in Canada. I'm sure it'll add to the employability factor of newcomers. It'll also help so many of us be less self-conscious. A bunch of things to pick apart there, Mayank. You are still, after all these many years in Canada, self-conscious about your accent?
Always. Always. I cannot begin to explain to you what an accent does to an individual when you are in a social environment where it is something that puts you, makes you stand apart. And you don't wish that happens to you ever at all, because you are just a normal person as anybody else is. And the way you speak the language, kind of segregates you. And that segregation is not something that I want. I'm sure that segregation is not something Canada wants. It is good for me to lose my accent, because then I become an equal with everybody else.
Okay, here's the thing though. Some people are going to ask, I can imitate you. I can imitate that accent. Why can't you imitate my accent?
I don't think that, you see, the whole point of English not being my first language imposes a certain restriction on my personality, because I am at a disadvantage when I'm communicating, when I'm competing. Although I can do everything that the next person is doing or can do, I still don't feel confident enough to compete.
Is it even possible to lose an accent? because I've been here a very long time. I went through ESL training, English training. It's very hard once you pass certain age to get rid of an accent.
This is something that is very commonly adopted in India, and they have call centers where they actually employ accent coaches who not only neutralize your accent but also help you gain the accent that you're going to be targeting in the market. So I think that something like that should be adopted here, because I don't need to learn language. I think I'm.
You know the language.
Yeah,
it's
I know
just
the language.
It's the sound you don't like.
Exactly.
Answer.
Not I don't like it. The Canadians don't like.
You think it's an issue, right?
First of all, if we all spoke the same, it would be a very boring existence.
Amen.
It would be a ridiculously, what's the meaning of multiculturalism if we all lose our accents?
If I just add one more point, I don't mean to lose my identity and my culture, but if I have to compete in this market for the job, and if my accent is going to hold me back, then I don't need it.
Well, okay. There are many adjustments to be made, that's for sure. But the adjustments have to be made on both sides. So it's not just the one with a thick accent trying to lose their accent, but it's also the general community being patient, listening, even asking for repetition, and adjust, because this is a multicultural society.
And perhaps understanding that this is the wave of the future.
Yeah, exactly. But the other thing is that I think the different accents are actually quite beautiful. It's beautiful to step on the street in front of one of the major shocks that I had, surprises I had coming here, was in front of Robert's Library, hearing two young women speak. This was not an accent question, it was a language question, speaking Polish confidently in front of the University of Toronto's library. I was so excited to hear that two young women at university felt confident enough to speak in their own language in front of what is the biggest hegemon than the library. So, and that would count also for differently accented languages. I find the multiplicity of accents actually quite attractive.
Rodolphe, have you tried to lose your accent?
Well, I've been in North America for 30 years now.
So it's not going to happen.
No, if I felt that the accent was holding me back, I would have lost it. I would have made something to maybe work on it. But no, I think I like it. Maybe unconsciously, I did feel that it's actually something that adds it's a part of my identity, and I definitely don't want to lose it. But again, here I go back to the distinction between accent and pronunciation. If my pronunciation was bad, then I would have worked on that.
Right, that's a different thing.
So that's a different thing.
We've got less than a minute to go. Go ahead, Atena.
I think that the accent is an asymptotic value. So you can work on it, you can make it milder, reduce it, but you'll never lose it. Like Hayne said, after a certain age, it is impossible.
Did you have a thicker accent when you first came here?
Probably. I am not the best person to judge it. I know that my criticizers that criticize me openly are my children. There I get a lot of criticism and teasing about how you pronounce things. Do you say culture or do you say culture?
Okay, but they're your kids, and if they don't criticize this, they'll criticize something else.
Yes.
That's what kids do.
So I think that linguistically, languages and accents are all equal, and accents doesn't take anything from anyone's spoken word.
May I say, I have adored listening to these 5 different accents tonight, and I want to thank all of you for coming onto our program this evening and sharing them with all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Support Ontario's public television. Donate at tvo.org.